Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel, Planning with Bree. I'm Bree, and today I'm going to be creating a spread for my level 10 life update. Right now I'm going to flip through my March spread that I just completed and put up on YouTube. If you'd like to see that video, go ahead and click the link up above in the cards. I will be completing the spread right here, right in between March and April. So this is a peek at my April spread, and that is up on my channel as well. Don't mind those orange pieces of paper. That was my brain dump, and I've already started to use it, so I had to cover it up. So in order to complete this spread, the first thing I am going to do is do a little bit of math. So I'm going to review my level 10 life spread that I originally did in my 2022 bullet journal setup. I got this idea from Reflect with Raksha, and it's basically a spread to help you live at a level 10 in various areas of your life. And you can choose however many areas you like. I chose 8. I chose the 8 areas of work, myself, family, health, friends, YouTube, and God. What I'm doing right now is giving myself a score of how I feel I did as far as completing my habits and routines for each section. Some of these are not trackable on my habit trackers, but this one is. And you see me give myself a 5 here because I completed my first 15 for 12 out of 24 days. 12 out of 24 is half. And on a level 10, half of 10 is 5. So the score I gave myself for March was a 5. I then did that for the other areas that I could track, such as health, like my physical health, and myself. The category for myself, I did use 2 different categories for that and just kind of combined my workouts, my morning routines, and things like that. For habits that I can't track on my habit tracker, because if we're honest, everything in our life you can't track on a habit tracker, and I don't want my life to be trackable on a habit tracker anyway. So some things I did have to refer to other sources, such as my work planner, my YouTube studio page, and things like that. So in order to get the square that I'm going to use, I chose to use a 20 by 20 dot grid space square, because if a level goes from the one half of my square up to the edge of the square, it needs to be at least 10 levels. So I'm going to have 4 levels on the top of the square and 4 levels at the bottom of the square. And this will make a little more sense when you see me draw it out. But I just wanted to explain why I chose to do a 10 by 10. You can do this many different ways. You could do a 5 by 5 and make each line that I'm creating 2 levels instead of 1 if you want to use a smaller space on your or in your bullet journal. Or you can completely switch it up and do another shape like a circle, or you could do a bar graph or a line graph. There are many, many different ways that you can track your level 10 life. So in order to create these lines, I am going from one diagonal that I have drawn to the other, and I'm just following the lines on my dot grid page. I found that that was the easiest way to do it, to make sure that I had the 8 sections that I needed, as well as 10 lines for the 10 levels. So right here, I'm going to average my score for January, February, and March. So for each category, I gave myself a score for January, a score for February, and a score for March. I add them up, divide them by 3, and that's how I get the score for my level 10 life update for quarter 1. I hope that makes sense. If this is a little too much math for you, by all means, you do not have to do that portion of it. I just like to do this. This is my first time doing it, so I'm just testing it out to see how this will help me with my reflection and moving forward. I pretty much use my bullet journal for 2 things, drawing, consistently being creative, and for self-growth. So I really want to make sure I'm trying my best to reflect on the things that I said I wanted to work on. And this spread helps me to do that. So after I go ahead and label all 8 sections for the categories that I listed off earlier, I am then going to put the numbers in the appropriate slots so I know how high to color my lines. So for work, my average ended up being a 4. For family, my average was a 4. For myself, my average was a 2. And I changed that to finances because I broke the area of myself down into health, like physical health and mental health. So my new 8 categories are work, family, finances, mental health, physical health, friends, YouTube, and God. So I only changed a few categories there. Once I am done filling in the levels of the updated categories, I am then going to flip back to the original spread and put that color in pink. And I'm going to set a new goal for myself and put that goal in purple. So you can see me flip back here to color in a dot where I want it to be in pink for all categories. And then I'm going to connect these dots to make a sort of line graph. So it's going to create, in my opinion, a pretty cool effect when I'm done. And I really like how it looks. So one thing that I noticed while I was completing this is that I only hit a goal or was very close to a goal in one category. Everything else was kind of low, especially for the category of myself and my mental and physical health. The one category that I did hit the goal for or was very close was YouTube. I set a goal for myself to be up at an 8 and my average was a 7. So if you don't have a goal of YouTube or if you have any type of work goals, the way that I tracked it or the way that I scored myself was based on the goals at my job. At my job, sales is part of my job. So I would include a point if I hit my lead conversions, or I would include a point if I made all of my care calls and things like that. You can make that completely customizable based on your job and what your goals are at your job. For YouTube, I did have a few different categories that I chose to look at, such as my upload dates and how many I did per month. So that new category that I grayed out was finances because it was not included in the original spread. So I just made sure to put a purple dot there so that I know what my goals are for quarter 1. Back to what I was saying. While I'm filling this out, I realized that in order to have a score that was pretty much at my goal for YouTube, I was not taking care of myself. So being new on YouTube requires a lot of work for me, or just a lot of time and time management. At this point, I have 2 jobs that I work as well as YouTube, and trying to get a video up every week with 2 jobs is time consuming, which means that I'm tired when I wake up in the morning and I should be working out, or that I don't necessarily feel like journaling and taking care of my mental health, or that I may slip up and do something that's out of character because I am worn out from certain things. So this has helped me to put it on paper and visualize it so that then I can move forward and make some changes. So on this next page, I'm going to do the reflection part of this. I first start out by drawing out the word reflection in that light pink. And to get an ombre effect, I'm just going over the top of the words with a darker pink, which is very reminiscent of what I did in the original setup. I pretty much did the exact same thing. And then I put some white flecks in the lettering so that it could give it like a bubble letter effect. And I thought that was really cute. I really like that style. And since I've been doing a lot of collages lately, I have not been lettering as much. So I had a lot of fun doing the lettering for this portion of the spread. So I'm flipping back and forth between the original spread and this one so that I can remember how I laid it out. I did change it up a little bit. I kept maintenance at the top and I listed the one thing that I'm going to maintain, and that's YouTube. I chose to keep my goal at a 7 since I'm operating at a 7. I want to keep it there so that I can work on the other areas of my life. I don't want to put more effort into that area of my life if I'm already operating at what I think is proficient, being on YouTube for less than a year. So now I'm going to move into my focus, which leads to small changes. So for my focus, I chose 4 of these categories, and these are the categories that I'm going to consistently work on day by day, week by week, month by month. So the 4 that I chose, starting with number 1, is my mental health. And when I say that, guys, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't want to put it out there like I have something just crazy wrong with me, but I have negative thoughts that I may think about myself if I don't work out in the mornings, or I may have demeaning things that I would say to myself if I don't eat right, or I may slip back into my old ways if I don't pray. And all of those have a negative effect on how I move through the rest of my day until I come home and I color on my mood tracker and my habit tracker and things like that. So for this category, my small changes are to do some more ABC journaling, which also includes positive affirmations. If you're not familiar with ABC journaling, I will link some videos down in my description of the process of moving through ABC journaling, which I found, I want to say back in February, and I've only done it 2 times. But that is something I want to do at least twice a month so that I am reflecting on the things that are negative in my life and creating positive affirmations. The second focus will be my relationship with God, doing my first 15 first. There was a moment where when I do not do my first 15 first thing in the morning, and if you don't know, first 15 is 5 minutes of prayer, reading your Bible, and praise and worship. When I don't do those 3 things in the morning, there is a complete vibe missing when I step out the door. You know, there's a mood shift that happens when I complete my first 15. My third focus is my family. I'm going to take this time out again to give my dad a shout out. When I was doing the voiceover for my April setup, he called me in the middle of it because he had found my videos from one of my cousins. Shout out to you, cuz, you know who you are. And he was saying that I talked a lot about my mom, which if you watch my videos, you know I talk a lot about her because I upkeep her journal. So he was like, I don't like that. But of course he was joking. So this is a shout out to my daddy. I love you. And he does have a major effect on a lot of areas in my life. I just don't talk about them as much. But I'll start doing that. So he's not fake jealous anymore. I want to throw that word fake out there, guys. He's not jealous in real life. So the small changes, I said all that to say that the small changes for family are to call them. I made a call list in my March spread for 4 people that I wanted to call, and I've been doing okay. There are 2 people in my life that I don't call as much for personal reasons, which are my grandparents. And this is a very hard thing to talk about, but when you get older, everyone around you gets older, right? My grandparents are getting older and I can hear it in their voices, and it honestly makes me really sad to call them. It's not an excuse. I should not feel that way, but I do. So I made sure that I put that on my list to make sure that I call them. And I actually have been, because it's still nice to talk to your grandparents while they're alive. So if there's anybody else out there that feels like me, call your grandparents, talk to them, tell them you love them, and just listen to them as they talk about, you know, the Westerns, if you have a granddad like mine. So along with that, I have other people that I want to call in my life. And the last category is physical. This category honestly used to give me anxiety to think about. It gives me anxiety to talk about, but it is something that it is the crux of a lot of my negative thoughts about myself. The only way I can change that is to get up and do something about it. So there are goals that I set, the small changes that I have here. One was eat more vegetables, which I've been including in my habit trackers for the last 2 months, and it's been working. And no late night eating and 5 workouts per week. I know I can do all 3 of those, and I will do all 3 of those. Look at that confidence. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap up with a little bit of doodling. I cut it out just a little bit because that's not what this video is about. But make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will be back with another video next Tuesday. See y'all later. Bye.